Hey George, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Whereabouts are you at the moment? Are you in London or are you at home?
No, so I made it out of London. So I came out to my parents' place, which is about 4 hours out, like proper nature farm vibes. So I'm like so
Lovely.
insanely grateful to be here, like immersed in the nature. So
Yeah,
very, very
I'm so, I mean, obviously I'm very blessed to be in a living situation that I feel comfortable in and stuff, but this time of stillness has really made me realize like I need nature. Obviously I've been able to go on, some hikes here and there and stuff, and I've got some plants in
got
my
nature to you.
Yeah, I guess so. A little bit of nature, but obviously there's something so healing about, being really immersed into nature and being able to like hug trees and lie on the grass and just ground yourself, and so important.
Yeah, like nature has always been so healing. Like it's always been my medicine. Whenever I've needed it, I've just gone out into a park and just like received the healing. But I'm really noticing like a lot of my friends who are in London still, or in cities in general, like so appreciating that if they have that 1 hour they're allowed out, it's suddenly people are seeing nature in whole other ways, which is really amazing, because I feel like we spend our lives just not really noticing the power of the plants and the trees and the sky and the ground, and suddenly people are like, I
Yeah.
need you, nature, I love you, I
Yeah.
promise I'm going to respect you more.
Well, that's the thing. I hope that what comes out of this is people really respect nature a lot more, because we have not been respecting Mother Nature at all before all this has been happening. And even just, because of the lack of, well, the limited flying and, less people driving around and stuff, then the pollution is already, you can see visually how much this whole period has like benefited Mother Nature. So I just really pray that what comes out of this whole thing is that, like, yeah, people respect her and they, give her the respect that she deserves, basically.
And look how fast she's healing herself just from having a bit of a
Oh, I
break.
love that.
And it's the same with us. That's how fast she heals us as well. We just immerse ourselves, we see her, we feel her, and she heals us. And we are also obviously part of nature as well. So we are a self-healing organism as well. So like all we need is like a little bit of respect, a little bit of time, a little bit of space. And like this time, so many people are doing the work and are self-healing and recognizing, so much is coming to light because of it, because we finally now have space to see what needed
Yeah.
to come up.
And we're all so connected, so when we're connected to nature, we're also like deeper connected to ourselves and to others. It's like just this beautiful like oneness, really, isn't it? So
Oh God, yeah, nature is everything and we are nature, and yeah.
totally, totally. So thank you so much for having a chat with me. Yeah, I guess something that really inspired me, that I definitely wanted to like have a little chat with you about everything, was because I've been seeing on your new platform of the yoga platform that you've set up on Instagram, of like the yoga community and with the yoga online classes. And I don't know, I've just really loved on your Instagram how you've been giving a lot of inspiration, but it hasn't been, let's all just stay positive all the time. It's been like uplifting, but also it's been yeah, it's been asking people to really like look within as well, and that to heal you have to put some work in, and that it's not just all super easy to just like flow into the state of enlightenment. Like you have to put some work in. And so I've really enjoyed those posts, and I feel like those kind of that inspiration would be really useful for a lot of people, especially during I mean always, but especially during this time of corona, to be honest. And I've definitely noticed in terms of like the stuff that you've been putting out is very about just like allowing all of your emotions and kind of delving within to address those emotions. So maybe you could like speak a bit more about that sort of thing to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think everyone is on their own journey and stuff is coming up from this time,
Mm,
because so we can't go out anymore. We literally can't go out. So there's
yeah,
nowhere else to go. You have to go in. And I mean, whether you choose to or not, we can kind of fall into our habits and our patterns, or move our addictions or our tendencies
mm,
to other other places, for example, on the phone, but it's going to be so much more obvious now because there is so much more time to see it. So the level of awareness is heightened because there's literally less distractions. So that's really great in a way, painful at first, but great.
Yes.
On level of growth. And I mean, I think, yeah, like obviously everyone's journey is so different, and the emotions that this is going to be bringing up, I think we're all moving through the whole range at different times, at different, you know, the uncertainty, the anxiety of like not knowing when this is going to be over, but also like recognizing, you know, maybe what hasn't been working in your life or what isn't working now, the like fears that are coming up, I mean, everything, literally everything, and the boredom as well. And so like ultimately my kind of experience of emotions, you know, I'm definitely like a feeler. I feel things a lot and very intensely, but it is just energy in motion. It's, you know, emotions, energy, motion. So it's flowing, it's supposed to be experienced and then it moves. So like I'm joyful, I experience joy, and then, but it's not, nothing is ever permanent, right? The law of impermanence. And so what happens there, I think, is when we're really young and we experience pain or trauma or stress, we don't really know how to deal with it. We don't know how to express it. And so we just kind of store it in the body, and then years later it gets something, and a trigger repeats it, and so this becomes denser and denser and more painful when we haven't been feeling fully, because feeling pain is really difficult and people don't want to do it, and so we just bypass it as fast as we can, generally with whatever fix, like chocolate, you know, TV, any distraction, connection, whatever it might be. And so it's one of the hardest things. Feeling emotions is one of the hardest things, but actually if you are able to just like really hold space for it yourself, or find someone else like a therapist or a counselor or even a friend who will just allow you to be really real with what you need to experience, and then suddenly, like, I mean, it's actually only a few moments of like that level of pain if you'll just be with it and notice where it resides in the body, and then it's gone. And actually there's been an amazing energetic discharge where the body has felt something, so now it can be released. It's not stored anymore, it's not suppressed. It's like you're free of it, and it doesn't mean you're free from pain for the rest of your life, but it's just this cleansing which needs to happen constantly. And so this is, you know, this is like a whole nother topic that I don't even know enough to talk about, but what I have been cultivating is more compassion for myself. So when I'm feeling the pain, I don't try and distract myself from it. I'll be like, oh, okay, there's some discomfort coming, like what can I do to like hold myself with compassion? What can I, and you know, maybe it's like, okay, I'm just going to have a bath and be still. I'm not going to have a distraction. I'm just going to really notice and just feel, and then just be really tender with myself, and like, you know, we have the time to do this now, and that is really great. And sometimes, you know, it's not always, sometimes it's too intense to hold that pain, and we really don't know how to, and we don't feel supported enough by ourselves. And so maybe you can call a friend and ask them to, or maybe you can do some healthy self-soothing rather than turning to our habits of like scrolling mindlessly to distract, or you know, watching that TV show, whatever, or eating that food that you know is going to make you feel better and for just a few moments, and then worse. So maybe I listen to something more uplifting, or, you know, sometimes we need to escape, but we can escape in a more positive way, but mostly we actually just need to feel it, and that's very hard. But necessary.
And in a weird way also kind of give it love and love it, because that's the way for it to then flow. It's that whole thing of like, if you're thinking about, don't think about a red elephant, don't think about a red elephant, then obviously that's all you're going to think about, and it's going to completely take over. Whereas if you just accept it and, you know, see it for what it is, then actually then, and you're allowing yourself to see it, then it can just kind of release from you, and you're not putting so much attachment to it and energy to it. And I think that's also a really interesting point as well about in terms of like, we're to work on things in a way that actually serves us, as opposed to kind of turning to certain addictions or whatever it might be. Because I think for a lot of us during this time, maybe that's why it's so painful, because all these things that weren't actually serving us, that we used to turn to, we're now having to, you know, see them for what they are, and realize that that wasn't serving us. And that, you know, that's kind of the beauty that can come out of this time, is that we can use this time to see, okay, what actually serves me in my life and what doesn't. You know, what, as you said, what am I eating that really doesn't serve me? And people might think that that's, not that important, but it totally is. I definitely notice with my mental health, for instance, and I remember when people used to say this before, I used to always think it was like crazy or whatever, but I definitely notice it now that I don't eat as much refined sugar. When I do eat refined sugar, then my emotions, I can feel it straight away. I'm much more like a lower energy vibration. And obviously, everybody's body is so different, but I'm definitely noticing at the moment the things that I need to implement into my life even after this whole thing is over as well, in terms of what I'm eating, what I'm taking in terms of information as well. We're talking about your Instagram page. Your Instagram page brings so much light into the world, but there's a lot of Instagram pages that really, really don't. And, a lot of mainstream news that's constantly trying to bombard us with fear and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I agree that there's definitely some important shifts happening for us all during this time with that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's an amazing opportunity to cleanse on all levels and bring about more conscious consumption and awareness to, okay, what am I doing? Because we are an accumulation of our habits, and what am I doing repeatedly, and is that actually supporting the direction in which I want to head? Is that we ultimately all want have something we want to create or achieve or do, and so what are our everyday habits that we're doing? How are they connected to that, and are they supporting that process or not? And so exactly, like, so if we're constantly scrolling at like kind of junk or whatever is junk for you, how is that taking you closer to what you want to do with your life? And if it's not, then why is it there? Is it relevant? Are you engaging in that, like that kind of is it feeding that negative part of your ego, which like just kind of indulges in that? Like, I'm using celebrity gossip as an example. It's not that it's bad, but like for me that would be like oh God, look how bad their lives are, look how awful and horrendous they are. I'd just be judging. So there's no point in me doing that. So I don't expose myself to that, because I don't want to be a judgy person. Like they're free to live their own lives. Who am I to judge what they're doing? That's just them playing out their stuff. Like, so it's better for me to just like remove that, because it wasn't adding anything to my life in a positive way. So I'm just going to cleanse that out. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people are cleansing here, but I think the importance of habits and like rituals is so significant. And something I think what would really support people, and something that's really supported me, because myself, I've gone through waves already through this process, and having my regular everyday practice has just been like immense. And I mean, I have my standard practice, but since this time, and since the first kind of wave hit, I just like amped up my practice time by maybe about 300% or something crazy, because suddenly I was like, well, I have time, so there's no excuse not to. And so I have been spending so much time in meditation or other various like yogic practices is for me, but and actually other practices beyond yoga as well. And that has just been so supportive. And so I would really urge people to figure out what it is that does support them, and like make that a habit, so even so for example, it could just be going to that park, having that 1 hour connecting with nature. Make sure you do it every day, and like maybe even make it like a certain time every day, so maybe it's sunrise or maybe it's sunset, so you get that extra amplification of energy in nature. Or it doesn't have to be, I mean, yoga and meditation, obviously I'm all about that, and that's so but finding something, maybe it's like that, doing a gratitude journal or something really simple, or like talking to that friend who uplifts you, talk about some positive, inspiring stuff that you want to create. So with my best friend recently, we've been doing this manifestation challenge. So we'll have a call every day, just talking about what we want to create, and we talk about it as if it's already happened. And that is just so exciting and so fun, such a fun uplift. It just helps us shift our vibration a little higher by talking in that way, and getting excited for your friend as well. So it's like you're doing something really nice for them, you're holding that space for them to share, and that's really beautiful as well.
I love that, and I can definitely vouch for that myself as well, because I've had this morning routine which I've set in place since about maybe a year ago or something, and I've been very strict with keeping it in place even during this time, even if I didn't have anything else to do that day. Waking up at the same time every day, and making sure that like I do all of my morning routine, because you feel like you've achieved so much already as well once you finish your morning routine. And it's such a gift of like self-love as well. You know, sometimes with meditation, for instance, I'll be sat there and sometimes I'm not in a good place, and I'm just like, there's all these things going on in my head, but I still view it as a gift of self-love to myself, that I gave myself those 20 minutes to just sit and be still with myself. You know, how many,
Yeah.
especially, well, at the moment, obviously we're being a bit more still, but before all this happened, how many of us even took 20 minutes to just like sit with ourselves? Like, what a gift of self-love. And of course, like yoga as well. Actually, maybe we could like speak a little about, because I think, you know, some people just associate yoga with the fitness aspect, and obviously you can get really fit with yoga, but then I think maybe a lot of people will pick between, say, going to the gym or doing a yoga routine. And then of course, you know, you might get more sweaty coming out of a gym session or whatever, where you've been running for hours or whatever, but there's so many more benefits that can come from yoga. So, you know, obviously you've got a lot of expertise in that, so maybe you could like tell people just like some of the many benefits that can come from having a yoga routine in place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously there's like the physical for sure, and not just like strengthening, but also like stretching into these places when we are more sedentary, like we are now, like we're seated a lot more and we are going to be stiffening up, so that's great.
Yeah.
Just to stretch as well. So the physical is like number one, and that is what a lot of people in the West are drawn to yoga for. But then beyond that, then there's the mental, emotional, and spiritual. So it's like, it kind of is something that happens on all levels. It's like a very holistic, integrated system. And within it, I mean, it's 5,000-year-old practice. So within it, there's so much happening, and so many different practices, basically. And so it's also, it's basically the science of the self. So it's basically, you are learning about yourself and how you are in relation to others, but also how you are in relation to nature, to the world, to God as well. So I mean, that spiritual side of it is very much there, and it is ultimately a tool for enlightenment, self-realization, becoming one with God, oneness throughout. And that's actually what the word yoga means. A lot of people don't even know this, but the word yoga means to unite, to join, like mind, body, spirit.
I love that.
And so we're aligning. So that's why the breath is so important, because the breath brings us into the present moment. When we're in the present moment, we're not in the future or the past. We're fully here. We're in this body. And then when we're present, we're more able to tap into that God space and recognize the God within us, or, you know, spirit within us. This physical body.
I know that you know Eckhart Tolle, or however he's. I always call him Eckhart Tolle, but I never know how I'm supposed to.
Eckhart Tolle too, but a lot of people say Tolle.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever he's called, I know you know him as well, and obviously he wrote that amazing book, The Power of Now. And I think, you know, during this time, if we're just present with it and not having our fears of past and future or whatever, then you know, it's a lot easier to deal with. And so yeah, with meditation and yoga, I think now more than ever it's so important for us to tap into those tools, because like if we can stay as present as possible, it will make this whole thing so much more bearable. You know, we're constantly hearing on the news and through different people probably of when people think that this whole thing is going to be over, and everyone's giving their 1 cent in it, but like 2 cents in it or whatever. But like, really, if we're just present in the moment, we really have no idea how long this whole thing's going to be. So all we can do is be present.
If we're waiting, we could be waiting a really long time, and it's going to be a really long, painful wait. And, you know, suffering exists when you are not present. When you're present, like the pain, I mean, you can be present with pain, but when you're fully present, like the other stuff falls away, like, you know. And yeah, I mean, exactly. If people don't have an awareness of the importance of presence, they're going to be in a lot of pain right now on every level. And, you know, there's only so much of the like positivity and gratitude. Like, of course, that you can find so many amazing positives within this whole experience. There's going to be loads that come out, but there's also, we have to be real, and there's a lot of the negatives as well, and a lot of difficulties, and change is always really hard. And so if we are constantly focusing on like, oh, how good things were in the past, or like how I hope things are going to be in the future, or like, oh my god, how I hope things are not going to be in the future, immediately we're in pain, we're in suffering. And so it's so important for us to recognize the power of presence, and find tools and ways to bring us into that place of presence. And I mean, it sounds easy talking about presence, but it's actually a very hard state to fully achieve. And so this is when I find yoga is an amazing tool, because there's so much within it. So at different parts of my yoga journey, I've connected with different things when I've needed different levels of support and vibration. And so, you know, for me, like I've done a lot of like Buddhist meditation and mindfulness, just very stillness, watching the breath. But in moments of like real pain, I found that wasn't supportive enough for me. I wasn't able to access it. And I think that's why a lot of people find meditation, like mindfulness, standard mindfulness, quite hard in that way, because like there's not, the structure is not that supportive. If you're coming from a very active mind and a lot of pain and suffering, which a lot of us are, and unfamiliarity with being present, that's very, very difficult. And so hence yoga, we use the physical body to help bring us into a slightly stiller state, right? And then also, like, I work a lot with mantra, because mantra gives you something to focus the mind on, because the mind wants to follow something. And so when you're following the mantra, it's very difficult to be in thought at the same time. So
I love those tips. Wow.
Because the word mantra again means mind tamer, almost. That's an almost translation. So it's like you focus the mind on this thing, so it can't be anywhere else. So it brings you into stillness through that way.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, so many amazing gifts in that conversation. So thank you so much. And I love you so much, and keep shining the light everywhere. You're amazing.
Bye.